Welcome to today's episode of Coming Soon Movie News with Nicholson. I'm your host, and on this show we're going to be breaking down all of the day's movie news and kind of giving a little bit of background into what it all means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer releases, and things like that. So without any further ado, let's get into today's topics. First off, they just did an interview with Jeff Goldblum, and they were talking about his prospects of possibly being in the next Jurassic Park movie. And he unfortunately stated that he hasn't spoken to anybody. He's informed that Steven Spielberg's involved. He's not directing it, but he is involved in Jurassic World, which will be coming out next summer. But it doesn't look as though he's going to be involved in the movie, which is kind of a shame because I really do like Ian Malcolm. I like his character, and I was glad that they used him in the second movie as the main lead. Glad that they didn't use him in the third one because that would have been a little bit of character fatigue. But I would like to see them possibly bring him back for some kind of a cameo. So it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But one of Jeff Goldblum's other big hits of the 90s, Independence Day, is actually getting a sequel. And Roland Emmerich, the guy who directed the first one, is coming back to do the sequel. And it looks as though he's going to be in that one, which is really cool. When you look back on it, like Dave Levinson and Ian Malcolm are two very similar characters, but they're also very different. I preferred Levinson, which was his character in Independence Day. I thought he seemed a little bit smarter. He was a little less cocky, but he fit better into that world than he did, I feel, in the Jurassic Park world. Overall, he was great in both, but I do feel that he fits better in the Independence Day world. So with the news coming out a couple of weeks ago that Will Smith would not be coming back, it looks as though that Jeff Goldblum's going to be returning. We've heard word that Bill Pullman will be coming back as the most likely ex-president now. But it's really interesting to hear this. And the supposed storyline that they're going with is that this movie is set about 20 years after the original. And if it does come out in 2015, they may have pushed it back to 2016 because 2016 would coincide with the 20-year anniversary of the original Independence Day. So if they did push it back, that makes sense. It gives them more time to work on the film. I know that they're not done on the script yet. Even Jeff Goldblum stated he hasn't read anything about it yet, but he is very interested in coming back. And I think the studio wants him, which is definitely a good thing. I mean, especially considering the trifecta of actors. You had Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, and Bill Pullman. They made that movie. It was an ensemble, granted, but those were the three core characters that made that movie. That's why people really still go back to it. That's why they rewatch it. So when looking at it and seeing that Will Smith's not returning, okay, well, they originally had two scripts written for the movie. They weren't willing to bow down to Will Smith. They had two scripts written, one with his character and one without. I'm assuming, based on the fact that they had two written, they were very similar. I don't think that the character development would have been that much different between the two, which is one of the reasons why they were able to do two of them. So they weren't willing to bow down to him for him to say, okay, well, you guys want me back, I'm going to ask for $50 million, and they're obviously going to say no. So it looks as though he's not going to be in it, but it's looking very likely that Jeff Goldblum and Bill Pullman will be back, which is really cool. Looking at the movie, I mean, it wouldn't be an Independence Day sequel without those guys. It would be like trying to do the Avengers sequel and have completely new superheroes. It wouldn't make any sense. There's no point in calling it the Avengers sequel. You have to introduce them beforehand. So them coming back, it's tying into the original. It's set 20 years later. Supposedly, mankind has taken use of the crashed alien spaceships and have developed hybrid technologies. So the aliens are apparently coming back to attack, and yeah, there's not a lot known about it right now. But that's the supposed plot synopsis, and it's going to be interesting to see some like hybrid fighter jet type things going after the alien ships with updated special effects. Because at the time, it was the best special effects that had ever been seen. I think it had the most visual effects shots of any film at the time. So a lot of things were kind of coming together to make that the movie of that time. So in order to bring that back, they're really going to have to up the ante with this. And I hope that they do that, but not go extravagant, not go way over the top, because even though the first movie had a little bit of campiness to it, it was tongue-in-cheek. It was saying, hey, listen, we know that this isn't a very serious movie. We're going to poke fun at ourselves. I hope they keep that tone, because that's what really made the movie work. So we're going to have to wait and see. I do believe that it is coming out in 2016 to coincide with the 20-year anniversary, but we're going to have to wait and see. Hopefully some news comes out about this in the near future. Next topic. As I stated yesterday, I was hoping pleading for the studio to release some photos or a trailer for Sin City 2, also known as Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. And I guess somebody heard me, or enough people talked about it. It looks like we got a couple of images available. They released the first image of Nancy, who is played by Jessica Alba, and they released the first image of Marv, who is again played by Mickey Rourke, and our first look at Johnny, who is Joseph Gordon-Levitt's new character, who's actually a new creation for the film. So we get to see a good idea of what these characters look like. Obviously, as you can see, Marv looks the same. Nothing really has changed with him. Nancy looks relatively the same. Johnny, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, almost has a Dwight thing going on with him. If you remember Clive Owen's character from the first one, who in this movie is being played by Josh Brolin, you can tell that there's similarities between their looks. The hair, the beat up, the broodingness of his facial expression. But the thing that I'm most captivated by is it looks like a true sequel to Sin City. The look is all there. The same graphic interpretation is there. They updated it obviously just to make it clearer, but they didn't drastically stray from what worked in the first, and I'm really happy about that. The interesting thing is that this movie is going to be released in 3D. So with the independent colors coming out, I think this movie is going to look absolutely beautiful. And with them releasing a couple of these pictures, I'm willing to bet that, again, March coming out, all the summer movie trailers are going to be released, or at least most of them. So it looks as though we may be getting a trailer within the next couple of weeks. So here's hoping that we get that, because I'm really looking forward to this movie. I think it's going to be awesome. This has always been Robert Rodriguez's wheelhouse. It's always been kind of the fun thriller type movies. He's dabbled in kids fare before with the Spy Kids movies and stuff like that. So it's really nice seeing him come back into his forte and really taking charge in this new movie that's taken 9 years to come out. So hopefully they were true on their aspects that I spoke about yesterday, about them coming through with a third one and starting to work on that. Maybe that one could come out a little bit sooner. But it looks as though we're going to be getting some footage from this movie soon. And it opens everywhere April 22nd, or August 22nd, sorry. So trailer would be nice. Really looking forward to it. But these pictures are, I guess you could call them kind of the appetizer. They really are whetting your appetite for this movie. When you look at the pictures, you see, okay, they're keeping the same tone. These characters are back that we're familiar with, so there's going to be some familiarity with the storyline. And as you can see, minor spoiler alert, since Marv is back, this story does take place before the original Sin City. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that stuff ties in. Next topic. This one's really big, really interesting. ABC and Marvel just announced today that they will be premiering a 1-hour special on March 18th at 9 p.m. 8 p.m. Entitled Marvel Studios Assembling a Universe. It's kind of a look into how they've created this cinematic universe that they've set up, starting with Iron Man, going through with Hulk, Iron Man 2, Captain America, Thor, Avengers, and now all the Phase 2 movies, and leading into Phase 3. But in this promo, not only are they going to be showing some new footage of the upcoming episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they're also going to be showing new footage for Captain America: Winter Soldier, they're going to be showing new footage for Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're going to be giving the world-exclusive first sneak peek at footage from Avengers: Age of Ultron. This is awesome. I am surprised they're coming out so early with the first look. I wasn't expecting to see anything until Comic-Con in July. So them talking about, or even, it's most likely just going to be some behind-the-scenes shots or some unfinished shots. I mean, if you guys remember, at the end of Captain America, the first one, the after-credits scene was actually a teaser trailer that they had put together for Avengers. And at the time, the Avengers had only been shooting for about 2 to 3 weeks. It was a similar situation that Guardians of the Galaxy just did, but they waited to have the finished special effects to put in for their trailer. But maybe this could be a similar type thing, like a little quick 1-minute segment of some completed footage. Maybe no special effects. Obviously, we're not going to see Hulk. We're not going to see Thor throw his hammer. We're not going to see Iron Man flying around in his suit. It would just be quick little glimpses of the characters and maybe a little bit of insight into the background of the movie, who Ultron is, what impact Vision is going to have in the movie, and possibly even our first introduction to Quicksilver, who's played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Scarlet Witch, who's being played by Elizabeth Olsen. So we still don't know what those characters are going to look like, what their costumes are going to be like. So this could possibly be a really great time for them to show this to the world, to have everyone up to date on what's going on, why these new people are going to be in the movie, or maybe even just a little hint if that ends up being a big story point. So, but yeah, like I said, Tuesday, March 18th, they are going to be showing off this 1 hour special, giving a background into how they've developed their cinematic universe, how they plan to move ahead, and giving us some sneak peeks at some of their upcoming films. So it's really exciting. Definitely look forward to that, and I will update on the show again just before this premieres. And once they show it, I will be talking about it on the day after. So, so don't you worry about that. Now, this news here is probably the biggest out of all. It's one of the most unexpected, but we should be hearing some things about this movie soon. It looks as though the first cast member of the upcoming Star Wars Episode 7 has been selected. Now, before I continue, I need to preface this by saying no deals have been signed. Nothing has been confirmed. There's a lot of talk going around, and this looks like it's definitely a possibility. But Girls star Adam Driver looks to be cast as the upcoming unnamed villain in the next movie. So his role is undisclosed. They haven't given out the name of the character that he'll be playing or potentially playing, but they said that it's a role that's supposed to rival Darth Vader in terms of his presence in that universe. So it'd be really interesting. I'm not that well known of Adam Driver's work. I've recently started watching a few episodes of his show Girls, and he's quite good on it. I've talked to some people as well who say that he's a phenomenal actor, so they don't have any problem with this casting at all. And when I first heard about it, I was a little apprehensive. Adam Driver was originally in line for a role in Batman vs. Superman. And at the time, based on his age, because we didn't know what direction they were going with Lex Luthor, but at the time, they figured that it was for the role of Nightwing, who, if you don't know, Nightwing is Dick Grayson. After he has given up the Robin mantle, he is no longer a sidekick. He is now his own superhero. He's gone out on his own, and he became Nightwing. So a lot of people thought that, well, that's the role that he's going to be playing, because Batman's an aged Batman. He would have already had Robin if they're going that way with this universe. But it turns out that he was actually up for the role of Lex Luthor, which I don't know between him or Jesse Eisenberg who would have done a better job. Again, we have no idea of what their interpretation of Lex Luthor is going to be, so it would have been interesting to see. And now that he was obviously not selected for that and they chose Jesse Eisenberg, he then went back up to the front runner for a role in Star Wars. Now, every name in Hollywood has been thrown out as to being involved in Star Wars in some capacity. Adam Driver looks like he's the front runner to actually be cast, and with the movie's going to start filming in and around the beginning of April. They've said that an April start date is expected, and the movie is going to be released December 18th, 2015. So we're probably going to be getting some casting decisions within the next few weeks. I'd say by the end of March, we're going to know who the main cast is. It still looks likely that original stars Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker, Harrison Ford, who played Han Solo, and Carrie Fisher, who played Princess Leia. It looks as though all three of them most likely will be back in some capacity. I'm assuming it's a passing of the torch type situation, so that they're not going to be the main focus, but it's going to be more on their children. Like Luke and Leia, or Han and Leia's kids, and then Luke's kids as well. They're most likely going to be the main cast members that they talk about, or the main characters that they talk about. But we still don't know a lot. The movie's still a year and a half away. A lot of people forget that these movies take a long time to make, and when dealing with something as big as Star Wars and as secretive as Star Wars, not to mention J.J. Abrams is directing Star Wars. He's the guy who's done the first two Star Trek reboots. He is known for his secrecy. I mean, look at with Star Trek Into Darkness. They kept coming out and saying, is Khan the bad guy? And he said, no, Khan is not the villain in the movie. And it turns out that that was just a bold-faced lie. They hid as much stuff as they could, and they should have used that in the marketing. They should have said that he's Khan. And that would have got so many people. It was in the reveal. If you guys haven't seen the movie, in the reveal, it's expected. When watching the movie, if you've seen any other Star Trek movie, you know that he's Khan. You can tell certain things about him, certain things that he does, certain things that he's capable of doing, that he was Khan. So hopefully they're not going to come out and say that, well, no, Harrison Ford's not in it, but Mark Hamill is. And then it turns out Mark Hamill's not in it and Harrison Ford is. I can see them doing that. J.J. Abrams has come out and stated in an interview that he is going to be less secretive with this movie because it is such a huge fan base. This is probably the biggest film franchise outside of Harry Potter. I think that's one of the only, off the top of my head, that's one of the only franchises I can see that's actually made more money. Some people would try to say James Bond, but look at the overall gross of James Bond. Skyfall, I think, was by far the #1 movie in the James Bond franchise, but the #2 was maybe a quarter of that. I think it was maybe $200 million. That the movie out of James Bond that made the most money made about $200 million, and then Skyfall came out and it made like $600 or $700 million. So putting all those 22 movies together, they equal about the same amount that Harry Potter made. And Star Wars, obviously, in this day, the original Star Wars is still one of the #1 movies of all time. I mean, just go rewatch it again. It's lived up. It has survived. The original trilogy has, not the prequels. Stay away from the prequels. Just don't ask yourself why it starts with 4. Just accept that it starts at episode 4. Do not watch 1, 2, or 3, unless you just want to watch it with me. Just don't listen to them. They're great visually, bad dialogue, bad stories, just overall just not very good movies, but they're entertaining. Like visually they're entertaining. So if you want to watch it on mute, absolutely. But outside of that, Star Wars starts with number 4. There are no 1, 2, or 3. Somebody miscounted and they started with 4. Just go with that. So the next piece of movie news that we have, they just announced Fast and Furious 7 will resume filming sometime in April, most likely April 1st, in the Atlanta region. Obviously, production was put on hold after the tragic death of Paul Walker on November 30th. And a lot of people were wondering exactly what they were going to do because he was only about halfway done filming his scenes. And whether or not they were going to reshoot, recast, if they were going to try to keep things in but change the script, we really didn't know. And so they officially came out when they announced the movie was going to be released on April 10th, 2015. They said that they are going to be keeping in the scenes that he's done, and they're going to be retiring his character. They're not going to kill him off. They're going to just be retiring his character, which I think is probably the best thing to do, because outside of that, when you look at a movie where if somebody has died, one of the actors has died while they're filming, and you need to potentially kill off that character. If you don't have them there to actually shoot that scene, there's only one way you can do it, and you do it while they're filming one of the car sequences. And you couldn't do that with Paul Walker. He died in real life in a car crash. That's too on the nose. That would be, I can't even think of another example. That would just be disrespectful, not only to the family, but I think that's kind of, it wouldn't feel right for even the fans. So I think the way that they're doing it is the best way to go about it. You could tell, especially from the last movie, that the storyline is transitioning more to Vin Diesel's character than it was Paul Walker's, especially in number 6. Paul Walker's character was, with the exception of one sequence, he was more of a background character. He didn't necessarily need to be there. So with seeing that, it makes sense that, and family being a big portion of that storyline, like that was part 5 was all about family. They were all about how they were going to be having a baby, how they were going to stick together, they weren't going to separate with running away. So with them dealing with family mostly, it makes sense for Paul Walker's character to say, hey, listen, I have a kid, me and my wife and my kid are going to go and we're going to get out of this life. We're going to get out of this world and we're going to try to protect ourselves. And Vin Diesel's character, the way they've set him up, that makes sense that they would do something like that. He would maybe it's even his idea to say you need to get out of here. The way they could do it would most likely be a scene with Vin Diesel and Jordana Brewster, who plays Mia, his sister, and him going to her and saying, you need to get Brian and the kid out of here and go into hiding. And then they go, and that's the last time we see of them. It's a very respectful way to get him out of the movie, to continue on with the franchise that they've already built up. They've already confirmed they have plans for 8 and 9. I think they have plans for 10 as well. They're going to keep milking this until they stop seeing money coming out of it, until they stop seeing profits. So, but when you look at them, they keep getting better. They keep getting better. I mean, Fast and Furious, the number 4, I felt was entertaining. It was a nice kick back from number 3. Number 3 I didn't mind. Number 2 I hated. Number one, it was a remake of Point Break, so I was entertained by it, and I was about 14 when the movie came out, the first one, so I enjoyed it. And then as they went on, they started to get worse. But number four came back, and the tagline was uh, same parts, new model. So I thought that was really cool. They brought back everybody else, and it reinvigorated the franchise. Then we got number five, and I could not get over how ambitious number five was. The action sequences alone in that movie, the car going off the cliff, the train sequence, the two cars pulling the safe through the city, everything. I just thought, I'm like, how can they top this? They can't. Number six is going to come out. It's going to be a smaller scale movie. Then they did six, and they had a chase on a freeway in Europe with a tank. They also had a chase with a giant plane. I mean, I could not get over how they just kept making it bigger and better and more entertaining. Now we know with number seven, they were going for more of a revenge thriller type feel. One character, if you haven't seen number six, I'm not going to spoil it here for you, but one character is essentially seeking vengeance on Vin Diesel's character and his crew because of the death of one of his family members. So it's more of a revenge take. I don't see it having the big bombastic action sequences. Of course, there's going to be car chases. There's going to be probably gunfights and fistfights. But I don't see it being as bombastic as the last two have been. It's going to be a little bit smaller scale, taking it in a different tone because we have a different director. James Wan, who directed Insidious. He directed The Conjuring. He has come on now to direct the next installment. Now, we don't know if he's going to continue on. It would be, if his visual tone is really interesting, it'd be nice to see him continue on and give it a fresh take. But I love what Justin Lin has done with the franchise. He came in at number three. Number three tried to be different, and I think it succeeded at that, but it still wasn't a very great film. Number four came back. It was better than three. It was better than two. I felt it was almost better than one. It was on the same level. Then he did five. Five exceeded my expectations. Then he did six. Exceeded my expectations. So number seven coming out, he's left. Obviously, when you're stuck on a project for so long, you start to lose your creative energy. So it's good for him to get off and try new things, and he's trying to get a couple other big projects going. But James Wan coming in and directing it, it's really going to be interesting. I'm really excited to see where they go with this movie. So the film comes out in April of next year, April 10th. So most likely we're going to be seeing a trailer in the fall. We've already seen a little snippet of footage. If you have the Fast and Furious 6 Blu-ray, you've seen a little sequence of footage, but I think we're going to see some trailers probably in the fall. So it'll be interesting to see when we get some more information about this. But filming begins April 1st, or restarts April 1st. They got about a month and a half to 2 months left. So a little bit of filming left, and then they're going to move into post-production. So can't wait for that one. And our last bit of news, not a lot to talk about with this one, but it is really interesting, and I thought I'd share it with everybody. It looks as though our first look at footage for the upcoming reboot of Ninja Turtles will be premiering in front of Captain America. I'm really excited to see this, and actually, if you guys take a look here, you can see that this was unreleased, or unofficial, sorry, concept art from the movie. It looks as though it's a finalized rendering of what Leonardo was going to look like, and I gotta tell you, I was apprehensive about this movie coming in. Everything I've heard, Megan Fox being cast as April O'Neil. You have William Fichtner playing Shredder, and he's not playing Shredder. His name is like Colonel Schrader or something of that sort, or Major Schrader. He's not the Asian character that we know from the comics and from the original movies. But there's also some concept art. I wasn't able to find it, but there's also some concept art of what Shredder looks like, and he looks cool. He's got all these spikes coming off him, just like you'd expect, but it's a more modern, badass look. As you can see by Leonardo, they almost look like they're a little bit older, maybe not teenager, but a little bit older. And just seeing the tattoo that he has, the protection option that he has on his chest. Everything about it I'm really liking so far. It's produced by Michael Bay. It's being directed by Jonathan Liebsman, who did, the last movie he did was Wrath of the Titans, and he did Battle Los Angeles before that, so he's very well adept at action films. So I have no doubt that the action sequences in this movie are going to be really cool. My problem is going to be story and dialogue. We know that they're mocapped. As you can see, this is completely CG rendered, but they were mocapped, motion captured on set. So they actually had actors in their place wearing big turtle shells on their back with all these little dots all over them, and going through and just filming all the scenes real, like on set with specific set lighting, being able to make it easier for the renderers to go in and create all of those special effects. So we're probably going to get some footage within the next few weeks. They did say it's going to go online probably a few days before it shows up in theaters, but I'm really excited to see some footage. I've been eagerly awaiting this for a while. I thought, again, like Guardians of the Galaxy, this is one that's going to take a little bit of selling because they got to make sure that adults want to go see this as well, as opposed to just kids. Or maybe even reinvigorate it for kids, but not make it childlike. Look at what Lego did. Lego made a movie for kids, but also for adults. They can do that with other movies. They just need to take their time and have the right creative team behind them. So getting a look at this footage is really going to be exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping that it lives up to the expectations. The one thing, I don't want it to be silly. I don't want it to be campy. We have the 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies for that. We have those original ones to be like that. It would be like them remaking Spider-Man right now and making it exactly like the Sam Raimi movies, the campiness to them, or the Adam West Batman movies. Those were very campy, but those were age appropriate. And I don't mean age by age of person. I mean the age that they were released in, the time frame that they were released in. That was socially relevant. That was what people were expecting from those types of movies and those types of content. So in this day and age, we need something a little bit more realistic, a little bit more real world-esque. You can still have the comedy, you can still have the humor, you can still have the immaturity of them because they're still supposed to be teenagers after all. But take a little bit more serious route with the movie. And that's all I'm hoping for, and I hope we get a good look at it in the teaser trailer, which should be coming out on April 4th. Like I said, it will be online beforehand, and as soon as it comes out, I will be covering it on this show. So that'll do it all for us today on Movie Talk with Nicholson. So don't forget to subscribe at the bottom of the screen, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so that anytime a video comes out, you guys can get updates on it. You can check it out. Also follow me on Twitter at Nicholson, Niklsun. For all of the movie updates. I will be posting updates anytime that something comes out, and then obviously I will be covering most of them on the show. Don't have time to take care of all of them, but I will be covering most of them. So make sure you guys follow me. And like I said, that'll do it for us today on Coming Soon Movie News with Nicholson. You take care.